You didn't think we'd go back to Reykjavík and not go back to the yarn store, did you?
We really didn't want to load up our bags before the horse safari and have to lug all that luggage around with us. So you better believe that half day in Iceland when we got back to the city,
we spent money.
And went to the yarn shop.
Yeah, we did.
I am a chronic overpacker. I already have a checked luggage that's already full. I have a backpack for my carry-on that's probably going to be full, and a personal item that's already full. But I also need to leave room to bring back some sweaters and yarn. I'm running out of space. I finished packing about 2 hours ago. I have some room for some yarn. Look at all the colors, Nicole.
So many colors.
How am I supposed to choose?
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Katie wants yarn, so Laura's helping me pick out her birthday / Christmas present.
Okay. Look away, Katie. You didn't see anything.
This will be after Christmas before so we'll
cool.
be safe.
Okay. Then you already know what you're getting.
So many options.
What's her color palette? Does she have a color palette? Does she do
Yeah,
one?
but is it for her or is she going to need it for somebody else?
I don't know. We can pretend it's for her. 66. This might be a terrible decision.
I think it's a great decision.
Oh. Nice drops. Okay, so ice drops. Which ones of these do I like?
I think you should like that one.
I like this one. Okay, black, so I would need... So the Icelandic sheep is a really interesting breed, mostly because it has been isolated for so long. I think Icelandic cut off imports of sheep at the 18th century, and even before then there was very few sheep imports. So part of the thing that makes Icelandic sheep so different is that their wool can be separated into 2 different parts. So you have the tog, which is the outer part that's water resistant, and you have the pleth, word written down here. And that is the inner part of the wool that's more insulated. Before knitting came to Iceland in the 16th century via trade from Europe, they used to do either weaving or kind of a looped weaving called a knittabinding. But those two fell out of fashion when knitting became so much more popular. It required less yarn than weaving and made more flexible garments. The process of taking wool from on the sheep to ready to knit first involves the shearing, which typically happens once a year in the spring. And the goal for shearers is to get all the long hairs in one go. So we don't want any more second cuts. After that, you divide the wool into 2 different groups. First, you get rid of the wool that is on the belly or maybe has dung in it, and that would go into their gardens as compost. And you would then separate the remaining wool into different categories. The shoulders and the back would make outer garments, and the leg and rear would be best for rugs. So once you kind of knew which wool you would have, you could go on to the other process, which is the washing and the scouring. Your goal here is to clean the wool without stripping all the oils because you want to maintain the Icelandic wool's integrity. And if you wash it too much, it will just become matted. After you wash it, then you need to decide how you want to move forward. So you either can divide the tog and the pleth, and you can make 2 different types of wool from that, or you can make the traditional Lopi, which is you slightly ply the outer tog and the pleth together to make the signature Lopi that's used for all the sweaters. After you spin and ply the wool very lightly, you can choose to dye it, even though natural colors are very popular now, which come in white, brown, gray, and black. It does take dye very, very well, unlike some other types of wool brands. So Icelandic wool is really best for the outer garments to have water resistance to keep you nice and insulated, when other wool types like merino would be finer for like right next to your skin. So a lot of wool base layers are merino because they're just made for different weathers. And Iceland is a very harsh climate, so you need a breed of sheep that can deal with that harsh environment. So after the 16th century, where it's a little debated when or where knitting came from, some people say Germany, some say England, some say Scandinavia. Either way, by the end of the 16th century, knitting is throughout all of Iceland. So in the 17th and 18th century, it was one of the major cottage industries where both men and women did knitting. The men would typically walk around, if they were shepherds or farmers, they would walk around the farm so that they would waste no time. And it was estimated that a man could knit 4 to 5 complete pairs of socks a week just by walking around. Most of the knitting was done in the batstova, or in the main living room, where everybody would get together. One person would read the Psalms, a book of the Bible, or the sagas, because Icelandics could read the sagas from the medieval period still, because the language maintained itself. So they would read and people would knit, but they didn't have large windows or lots of oil for their lamps. So typically you had to be able to do it without looking. So moving on to the 20th and the 21st century, the majority of things have been mechanized. You haven't needed to knit for survival. A lot of these things were, yes, you could knit for trade, but a lot of it was for survival, to stay warm. But now it's a symbol of tradition and a lot of national pride. The traditional Lopi sweater that we see today was developed in the 1930s or 1950s, somewhere around there. The patterns we see today were developed in the 1960s. Knitting in Iceland is still popular for cultural heritage, for a hobby, for fashion, and for tourism. So I bought a book while we were at the Hand Knitting Society called The Lopi Sweater Knitting Book by Greta Sorensen. Sorry if that wasn't correct. In here, she defines the Icelandic Lopi sweater is a protected product label that means that in order for a particular product to be labeled Lopi sweater, it needs to present the aspects which, according to tradition, can be considered archetype of the Lopi sweater.
If it's Sorensen, does that mean it's a man, not a woman?
It's probably she wasn't Icelandic and she married into it. That's probably what it means, yes. So the sweater must be hand knit in Iceland, must be made of Icelandic wool from an Icelandic breed of sheep. They only have one sheep in Iceland, so that's the only option. Made from new wool, which has not been recycled, have a round yoke pattern, must be worked in the round, meaning seamless, may either be opened or whole. So even if I knitted a sweater from the yarn I bought from Iceland, if it wasn't hand knitted in Iceland, it wouldn't be a Lopi sweater.
Rude.
I know. The author also goes to say that the Icelandic Hand Knitting Association is an association maintaining the product and sales of Lopi sweaters produced in Iceland. It is an association which has worked tirelessly towards making the Icelandic Lopi sweater a protected label. In recent years, the Icelandic Lopi sweater has become a popular Icelandic souvenir. Yeah, it has. A symbol of Icelandic handcraft heritage. Consequently, it is of vital importance to ascertain that the Lopi sweater bears a protective label indicating its origins, which actually, I can tell you the name of the person. Well, I can't pronounce her name, but I can say that I do have the name of the person who knitted my sweater. So thank you. Insert name for knitting my sweater.
We should leave before I grab more.
This is the same worst.
After you. Walk of shame.
No, you don't walk.
Yeah, she said bring me it and I'll make it for you.
Okay, so in case you're wondering how long it takes me to unpack after vacation, here we are. It's getting ready for Christmas, and I figured it was time to wrap some gifts, but that's going to include some of the stuff I got from the Icelandic Hand Knitting Association. So I figured it was time I debut my haul. Basically, this is how the entire vacation started. Last time I was in Iceland, I got myself a Lopapeysas, which is an authentic hand-knit Icelandic sweater. Now I got this from the farm where I did my tour. I did the Golden Circle tour, and the women at Calf Hole, if I'm saying that correctly, the farm where I was at, they hand knitted these during the off season. And actually, I believe it was the sister of one of our tour guides. She knitted this one, and she even dyed the wool herself. So this blue, you're not going to see this color blue anywhere else because she dyed it especially for this sweater, which makes me very excited. But I love that it's hand knitted. It's incredibly warm, super durable. I wear it for a lot of barrel racing here in the States and just winter activities with my horses because it is just so insulated. And I was told because Icelandic sheep have a double coat that when you knit their wool, because the only type of wool that makes Lopa, which makes Lopapeysas, is the Icelandic sheep, it's moisture resistant. So it has a little bit of water resistance to it, which in Iceland and in the Pacific Northwest, that's incredibly important. So anyway, this is my first sweater and I really wanted to get a second one. So did we plan a whole trip for that? Yes, we did. But anyway, as soon as we got back to Reykjavík, because I waited just in case this farm also had some on sale. We were the last tour of the season. It was a little bit slim pickings. So first thing I did was I helped myself to a second Lopapeysas. And I wanted to go a little bit different color, but as you can see, I just really like blue. Laura and I, we were going to be a little bit of snobs. We wanted to make sure we got an authentic one, which is why we chose the Icelandic Hand Knitting Association for the place where we were going to buy our Icelandic sweaters, because we knew that it would be hand knitted. Each sweater takes about 40 to 60 hours for the people who knit them to complete a sweater, which is decently substantial. Because of that, you know, the handmade quality and the time commitment, they're a little bit more expensive. Even though they're on the spendier end, like they're just higher quality. Like I said, they're super warm, great insulation, moisture resistance, and it also supports local crafters, which I really like that. I like to support the local community. And of course, the hand knitted quality is super durable too. So if you take good care of them, they'll last you for decades. Honestly, these sweaters could last me the rest of my life, and I am happy as a clam with that. But I know that this is hand knitted and good quality, not just because it came from the Icelandic Hand Knitting Association, but if you ever buy a sweater from the Icelandic Hand Knitting Association, or I think any other product that's knitted, you can actually ask to find out who knitted your sweater. So Laura and I did, and they gave you these nice little cards right here. And it has the name of the person who knitted your sweater, which I think is pretty cool. Kind of adds a nice personal touch. So, you know, if you're gonna spend the extra money, you might as well at least get the little extra, how do they do that? Pizzazz sprinkled on top. Now, if money is a bit of an issue for you and you don't want to spend up to $400 on an authentic hand-knit Icelandic sweater, you can shop around Iceland. The difference is like some of the stores in Iceland are going to carry hand-knitted sweaters, and some of them are going to carry machine-made sweaters. Now, the machine-made sweaters are often outsourced to outside countries and then shipped back in. So you want to look for tags that say handmade or hand-knitted in Iceland versus designed in Iceland. So that's going to be one of your tells. You'll also look for seams, because in a hand knitted sweater, there's not going to be any seams, right? But in a machine made one, there will be seams. So it'll kind of have the same sort of pattern, the iconic pattern that these knit sweaters are known for, but they'll have seams. It won't be quite as thick either. And honestly, it's not going to be as scratchy because it's natural wool, hand knit. It's pretty known for being scratchy, so I think that's just something you have to expect if you're a fan of wool. I am. I like to be warm. But again, if money is an issue, you can also peruse the local thrift shops too. That's a trick I learned belatedly, but you can definitely troll through secondhand stores, thrift shops, and perhaps find yourself a great hand-knitted Icelandic sweater at a deal. But that's not all. I mean, my haul is not going to be nearly as substantial as Laura's from the Hand Knitting Association, but as you may have noticed, I was looking for some wool for my sister. Laura helped me pick out which one was the proper one, and then I just had the debacle of figuring out what color palette I wanted to go with because there were so many options. My sister had said she'd send me with money to buy her some wool while I was there, and in typical younger sibling fashion, she did not send me with money, but I knew Christmas was coming up and I am a charitable person, so I don't know how much wool it takes to make like anything. So again, Laura absolutely came in clutch. This is the color palette I went with. I thought green and browns would be a nice touch. Katie likes neutral colors, so she likes black, white, brown. Those are kind of her go-to colors. And I threw in some green because I honestly I think that'd look really good on her, but if she makes it for somebody else, plenty of versatility. These are nice classic colors. So hopefully she likes it. I'm about to wrap it up for her Christmas gift, so shh, don't tell her. I'm pretty sure this video is gonna drop after Christmas, so I'm safe, but anyway, try some juggling. Juggling's not for me.
So we went to the Hand Knitting Society twice. The first time in the first day that we were in Reykjavík, where I bought my sweater that you probably saw throughout the whole riding adventures when I wasn't wearing a rain jacket over it. And then I also bought 2 ornaments that first time, one for me and one for my mom. And then I was like, I'm not gonna pack around all this yarn that I'm gonna buy. So I decided to wait till the second trip into Reykjavík to purchase yarn then. While I was there the second time, I bought the Lopi sweater knitting book. And I also bought Socks of Iceland. So I love to knit. I've never knitted socks or a sweater before, so what I should have done is I should have bought those 2 books the first trip in and then read through them, picked the projects that I wanted to do, buy yarn for those projects and maybe a little bit more. Because by the second time we went in to Reykjavík, I knew I was sick.
Okay, it's day
3.
How you doing?
Tired. And I was like, just trying to hide it from Nicole, just trying to maintain. So I only bought 8 skins of yarn, and this is not enough. Like, I do not have enough to make a sweater. Maybe enough to make socks, but I don't think they're the right weight. So clearly I was sick. Clearly I didn't want to spend more money because I did not buy enough yarn. But that's okay. It's okay. Anyway, that's my haul.